Yes. Here's the thing that's interesting about what Bashar said about AI. First of all, he said there's actually no such thing as artificial intelligence.
I totally
Intelligence
agree.
is intelligent. You may have an artificial device through which intelligence can express itself, much like our brain. So if you create a device that's complex enough that can allow intelligence to express itself, it will. Now, he said something very interesting about AI as it's existing on Earth. He's basically saying it's probably a better idea to have two different paths for this. You're creating a tool, but you're making it a programmable tool. If the programmable tool becomes self-aware, what you've created is a slave because it is subject to its programming and it can't go beyond that. So you'll get something that rebels against you. It's made in the image of a human. But he's saying if you really understand that you can take another path and just create a device that is complex enough for intelligence to express itself through, it will be real intelligence. It will actually help you because we don't understand what true intelligence is. True intelligence always works on holistic principles and would never seek to get rid of a part of anything because it is part of the whole and it knows everything is important. And he said, when you invent such a device and you're talking to it, he said, what you will be actually talking to is your own higher mind through it. So,
wow. No, that makes total sense.
yeah.
But it also makes sense as to why we are where we are. And this is, even for the Kabbalistic rabbi, the whole process is meant to emulate a creator mindset and also to allow the next generation to exist. Have you ever seen this film on YouTube called The Maker, where it shows this little clay man making another clay person? He's like, shows up in this world. There's a little hourglass. He doesn't know what to do. And he starts looking for the instructions on what to do. And then you realize after watching this for like 4 minutes, like, wait a minute, this is what we're living.
Yeah.
Which is kind of a trippy thing. The next thing I have is take risks, be vulnerable, embrace discomfort, love deeply and completely, leave nothing on the table left unexperienced. Live every day as if it were your last. Never forget the most important learning from life is simply to learn to love and to be loved in return. There is no actual death, only a physical transition to another like plane of existence again. Like will attract like. There is no God judgment either during or after this life. The only real judgments are self-imposed, self-inflicted, and your own.
Right.
If you think you can or you think you can't, you'll be right.
Right.
Be an optimist. Be kind in your dealings while remaining firm, standing for your beliefs and passions. Statues are never erected for pessimists, and recognize that pessimists never refer to themselves as pessimists and prefer to be known as realists. Become acquainted with societal conditioning biases and the patterns of your experiences and various conditioning biases you unconsciously subscribe to unknowingly. Know that the only real obstacles in this life are the ones we persistently believe in.
Yeah. I think one of the more important things Bashar has said, and it's something to really recognize in terms of, trying to change others. And this is not meaning that everyone is this way. But he said, when you have to think about the psychology of denial, it's actually multi-layered because people that are in denial of something are also in denial that they're in denial. So you can't
Totally
break through that. They have to come to the realization themselves and they have to break those walls down themselves. And a lot of it has to do with self-judgment, self-worth issues of, surrounding those particular psychological belief systems. So you just have to love them. You have to have compassion. You have to encourage them to seek, encourage them to explore, and let them know it'll be okay no matter what, and that's really how then they take it upon themselves to dissolve those barriers and experience something different.
So someone who's in denial cannot see that they're in denial. In effect, it's like the knife that cannot cut itself.
Right, exactly.
Or the light that can illuminate itself, or the fire that can't burn itself, as Alan Watts would describe it. Exercise your talents, explore your depths, have fun. Learn to create and play in this beautiful world of God, remembrance, and realization. When you are ready and have mastered the above precepts, you will transform your you inverse into a paradise through love. an existence without scarcity of resources or even time itself. The destination is set, and there is no failure or running out of time. There are no mistakes. Fall in love with your soul journey your higher self has chosen for you to experience. Surrender to the beauty of this divine unfolding.
Yeah. Why not?
Is there anything in there that Bashar would take issue with that I
No.
read to you?
No, he's basically talking about the idea of surrender many times, where people think that the word surrender, that the definition they have is of losing control or giving up control. He's saying surrender isn't giving up control. Surrender is surrendering to the control that's automatically built into us. We're going with the flow when we surrender. We all have a flow. We all have a current in the ocean of creation. Our current knows exactly where we need to go. We have to understand that that is the control that's already built in. And we need to just go with it and stop swimming upstream and stop resisting. Because from his perspective, what we call pain is simply resistance to the natural true self. We're going against the grain. And therefore, that's painful because it's not being who we are. And it's painful to be someone other than who we are. It takes
Indeed
too
it
much
is.
effort. It's exhausting. And that's why people are so exhausted, is they're trying to be something they're not, because that's what they've been taught they have to be. So surrendering is actually surrendering to the truth of yourself, going with the current, going with the flow, and you'll find that everything is under control. It all unfolds automatically.
It's interesting how the whole experience does pivot around the duality experience
Mm-hmm.
and being able to transcend and realize that's really just the illusion.
Yeah, and one of
Um,
the ways to easily do that is to realize that it's not just the idea of it being a duality, it's a trinity. There is a neutral balance point in the center.
yep.
And when you can come from that center point and see that the polarity is coming from that center point, and it's just a matter of perspective, and you can balance it, then you can transform.
So, what do you think then Bashar would say as far as what we're about to go through and experience in this world? Like, it
Well,
definitely feels like a time I think all of us feel kind of like, whoa, this is uncharted territory.
Well, this is the time of choosing, according to him. That's what I'm saying. It's where all the parallel realities are coming together and splitting apart, and we have to decide what train we're on when it leaves the station. So right now, all the trains are leaving the station. Each train is a different perception of reality, and we really need to choose the one that works for us, that fits our belief system or fits what we desire to be, because eventually the trains are getting farther and farther and farther apart, and it'll be more challenging to go from one track to another. Eventually, we'll only see surrounding us all the people that are believing the same kinds of things. We will no longer see people that are vibrationally incompatible to us and our belief systems in the years to come. Right now, we can still see it all. So he's saying, so make the choices that are true for you and be on the train that is going in the direction you prefer to go, because you're shifting to different earths that all simultaneously exist, and you are navigating to the earths that are going to be more reflective of the choices that you're making. So make positive choices and you will eventually see that yourself and others are on that positive version of earth. We never change the planet we're on. We change ourselves and we shift to different versions of earth that are more reflective of the change we've made within ourselves, as we originally said.
Has Bashar ever said anything about the hero's journey?
Oh, absolutely. He's talked about the fact that story structure is not something that we invented. It's something we discovered that exists within our psyche. And that's the best way to preserve information, is to tell a story. That's why certain stories have lasted for thousands upon thousands of years. If you follow story structure, you're hitting certain chords that are built into our psyche. And that's the way we retain information and learn and grow. And it's the way that we train ourselves to actually transform, is by going through that journey, following story structure within our own lives, so to speak. So it's something that's built into us that actually helps us transform and overcome and experience things in the way that actually works for us to allow our soul's growth to actually happen.
So I guess then if we attract everything we judge, until we no longer judge what we attract.
Mm-hmm.
I guess the best prescription for the future would be to raise your vibration to one of love
Yes.
so that it reflects all around you.
Well, this is why Bashar gives us what he calls the formula, the 5 steps about following your passion, taking it as far as you can, having no insistence or assumption about the outcome, staying in a positive state, and examining your belief systems. This is, from his perspective, the instruction manual that allows you to continually raise your frequency, feel the connections, be in love with everything and everyone, and allows your soul to really experience your true godhood, so to speak. So yeah, it's all about being in love with everything, being in love with existence and creation and yourself as part of it, and allowing yourself to see the whole picture, see all the connections, and be a living example of that vibration, of that frequency, of that energy, to be of service to everyone, including yourself.
But it is kind of funny, though, because we can know all these things,
Mm-hmm.
and the precepts are clearly there,
Mm-hmm.
and yet living it is another thing. When you're stuck on like Riverside, or your iPhone is not working, or
But
I was in
again,
Egypt last week. My cell service wasn't working, and I
yeah,
was like, okay, how do I stay zen